Hey everyone, welcome to The Last Battlefield. This is our second episode, and uh, I wanted to make this episode today with a very close personal friend of mine. I've known him for nearly 20 years, and you're about to meet him and hear his story now. But I just want to say that there are some people that you meet in your life where you feel an immediate connection to because of how you click or how you just get a good vibe off of them. And this man is a great example of that. When I met him, and when we became friends, and I would talk to him, and I told him one day because I felt compelled to tell him. I said, "Look, I would go to war with you." Because his valor, his heroism, and just the strength of his character and spirit. He loves everybody. He loves our nation. He loved serving our nation. He loved being a sergeant, and hearing his story and the struggles that he had after leaving the military, even during the military, it's quite inspiring how he went into he found his own salvation, his own recovery. So you'll hear us talk about it in the interview. But if you're having struggles, don't forget there are resources out there that can help you get through your struggles, and you can find salvation and relief through many of the veterans organizations, or even some within your city or town that have nothing to do with the military. But anyway, so here he is, and enjoy, and thank you for watching.
Hello, my name is Jason C. Smith, United States Air Force, retired Master Sergeant. I served from 1992 to 2015, 23 years. During that time, I was a security policeman, now security forces. I served at Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana, from 1992 to 1997. Then Lackland Air Force Base as a security police/security forces instructor from 1997 to 2001. Then from 2001 to 2004, I was at the 824th Security Forces Squadron, Rudy Air Force Base, Georgia. From 2004 to 2008, I was stationed at Spangdahlem Air Base, Germany. That was probably the best assignment / some of the best times of my life. Then I went to Lodges Field, Azores from 2008 to 2010. Finally, Peterson Air Force Base from 2010 to 2015, my retirement year. Also, I served in Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Iraq, and Afghanistan. My favorite memory from my military years was probably my last assignment, when I got to be the Distinguished Visitors Special Events Coordinator for Security Forces, when the Vice President came to speak at the Air Force graduation. Got to work with Secret Service. Probably the biggest challenge from military to civilian life is realizing that you could not give direct orders or order people around in the civilian sector without any legalities being involved in that situation. Finally, I'm in security. That's my current job, and I enjoy what I do as a security account manager / security professional. Thank you, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Joining me now is Jason Smith, who you just watched his intro and listened to some of his story. Now, Jason and I go back quite a few years. We were stationed together in Germany, and Jason, how did we meet?
I got stationed there in Germany. It was July of 2004, and it was the first time in many years that I was going to have to do the quality control test for our job. And so I came up there to introduce myself, and you gave me a warm welcome and reintroduced me to the QC world, which what we got to do for our job, and the rest is history.
So, for everyone watching, what that means is when I met Jason almost 20 years ago, I was working in a department within our unit that was responsible for evaluating the effectiveness of programs across the unit, but also basically keeping the commander honest by having people who were trained and certified and qualified to go out and do their jobs. And things like, we carry guns, so making sure that people are compliant with the use of force and the Geneva Conventions and all those other things, but also basic police tactics. We were police officers together, and we worked together for I think 4 years during that
That
time.
is correct.
And
if you remember correctly, we were also on flight together towards the end of our tours there.
that is correct. Yeah. Toward the end of I left before Jason, and we worked together on a police shift. We were actually out what we would call dispensing justice together. So that's what we did. So Jason, after Germany, you went on to the Azores, I believe.
You are correct on that point,
Right.
sir.
So I always heard stories of the Azores and the wind at the Azores, that if you have small dogs, make sure you have them tied down so they don't blow away.
Oh, to some degree, that is correct there. We did have a small dog at that time, and
Yeah.
the winds get fierce on that island.
Yeah. So that was off the coast of Portugal, right?
That is correct. 900
Right.
miles due west.
All right. So when we worked together, it was in the middle of our careers, and you went on after that and you went to Colorado Springs. So what I want to talk about is what happened after you left the military. What did you do? And I personally, and people will hear me talk about this all the time, that I personally had a really hard time adjusting to the civilian world because of many things, like some of the things that you described in your opening monologue, where you talk about, in the military there's orders, and then outside the military dealing with civilians are like, yeah, and then I would always have difficulty. Why can't you just do something so basic as just go do something that you've been asked to do, And I had a rough time with that, but also just trying to get a job outside. We go through transition assistance when we're leaving the military, but that's from an insider perspective, not an outsider perspective. Even if it's taught by a civilian that's working on a contract, it's like they don't really understand what it is that we deal with as veterans. And did you have an experience similar to something like that?
Oh, yes, I did in that time frame. It was 2014, 2015. That was my transition period.
Yep.
And when I did finally retire, I was on terminal leave looking for jobs. If you recall, that's when I was trying to get on with the Texas State Troopers.
I do remember.
And I was rather confident that I was going to get on the Texas State Police Force.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it did not work out for me. So that is where I learned quickly, you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
So, but fortunately, being in the security career field that I've been many years, I just went ahead and was able to apply for a professional security guard job at our local hospital. Mm-hmm. And managed to work my way up and continue with that job itself. But with regards to what you're discussing in terms of the transition, yes, because of our different mindsets. You're in the military, you got the Uniform Code of Military Justice, you got all our Air Force instructions, you have all these items in place that allow us to be able to give those direct orders, especially Article 92, that allow us to be able to do our jobs. The troops follow the standards, abide by the standards, and then we'd have those tools in place if we had to do corrective action or punishment, however you want to view it. Mm-hmm. When I tried to enforce that mindset in the civilian sector, yes, it was a wake-up call, because a lot of people we're not in the military, or somehow we're in the military, and it's like, I'm not in the military anymore, what are you doing? They give you that attitude.
Yeah.
And legalities come into play there, and you got to be careful how you approach it. So you have to use reason, logic, and common sense when you're trying to accomplish the mission. Like the leadership definition, the art of influence and directing people to accomplish the mission. So I had to revamp my mindset to where we would have success on the security teams.
Right. So, when I left, I was leaving from England, and we didn't have a house. We didn't have anything. See, some people, if you have a choice and you're watching this and you're in the military right now, if you're getting out, make sure if you're stateside, unless you're planning on staying overseas, you want to have a place to live, because you got to have like employment. You have to be able to prove that you have an income so you can get a mortgage and all that other stuff. That was a really rough transition for me. I really had a hard time with that transition, and battling all the things that I was battling I was very sick when I was leaving military service, and struggling on the outside, so, and you have we've been friends for a really long time, and we talk about this, but when you left the military, and then in the years that followed, you had your own struggles. Can you share some of those struggles with us right now?
Oh, with pleasure. Well, my struggles actually began before I got out of the military. I unfortunately, due to our career field, since that was a practice and what we like to do, especially when we had our Friday night events or weekend events or squadron parties, during that time, I developed a drinking problem. And this dates back probably even before the military. When you drink to get drunk, that should have been an early sign for me that, hey, you got a drinking problem. But I was able to tolerate it and what have you. So coming around, I was as you mentioned, I was already here at Peterson Air Force Base here in Colorado Springs, and I was starting to get those physical reactions to alcohol, like the shakes, the quakes, or anything along those lines. And it was August 3rd, 2014. August 4th, 2014, when I realized that, whoa, I have a drinking problem, because the shakes just got really bad after 52 consecutive days of drinking. And so I self-identified or self-referred myself to the ADAP program, the Alcohol Drug Abuse Prevention Treatment Program offered by the Air Force. By doing that, I was taking charge of myself and taking charge of my career. Because as you know, people who did not do that in those days and were forced to go to it, that could really create many situations for a person's career, regardless of what your job was in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I went to Cedar Springs Rehabilitation Center here in Colorado Springs for 30 days. And believe it or not, it was a good experience. Of trying to identify what I needed to do to put sobriety in my mindset. So unfortunately, upon graduation, they didn't have like a transition period. It was like, you're done. Hey, welcome back to the reality of life. And so that was also a challenge for me, because even though I went through rehab and all that stuff, and I was able to be sober for the next 14 months, during that time, I thought, okay, I'm going to just be able to take a long break. My body will recover, and I can resume drinking at a later date. So when I was going through rehab, I was looking at other different areas. Hey, where can I hide my car? Where can I go to the nearest liquor store and see what I can find and what have you, so I could be discreet about it. Well, when you're a recovering alcoholic like myself, you have a warped mindset. You just think different. You just have a different thought process than a person who does not have a drinking problem or an addiction problem. And so, unfortunately, when I did not get the Texas State Troopers job, that led me to a relapse. And I drank pretty heavily for 3 months and what have you. Fortunately, during the first round of sobriety, I was going to Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, and doing what I was supposed to do, and I thought it was helping me. But I discovered when I had that relapse, your body does not forget what you did previously when I was a drinker. I lasted maybe 5 days, and then all the stuff that I experienced that led me to my first round of sobriety came back. And then I actually got a sponsor this time, and I still have my sponsor to this day. Thank goodness. Good guy, very knowledgeable, very well experienced based on his background. And he was able to help me get through it. He knew when I was BSing and what have you. So January 1st, 2015, in conjunction with, how we always want to have a New Year's resolution, I stopped that day. And so as of tomorrow, it'll be exactly 8 years I've been sober. Don't get me wrong, I've had my challenges along the way, especially that first year. That's why when you get your 1 year mark, they call it the heavy metal time frame, because you went through the hardest part right there. Now, even though through my years of sobriety, they said the most dangerous time up to this point was between the 5 and 7 year mark. And I was fortunately able to get through it with the help of AA and counterparts such as yourself. You've been a fantastic supporter of me from the start. You never judged me, and you were there for me when I needed it. Even though you're not an alcoholic, you're a fantastic supporter. That's what we call you all in AA when you go to the meetings with us. And so been able to do that. And so I just find things to do in sobriety, exercise, chat with people, and go to AA itself. And I also watch this show called Intervention. It's one of those shows where people are having addiction problems of any sort, and people intervening to get them help. And it's just the reason I watch this show is a stark reminder of what not to do anymore.
Yeah.
And I also had a friend that reminded me of that. So, do you really want to go back through all that again? And so, oh, heck no, I do not. So those are the kind of motivators I need to make sure I stay in sobriety.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, Jason. Your struggle's been, I've watched you over the years, and I've talked to you over the years, and how you've you've had your struggles and you've had your victories, and a lot of that you've got to I credit to your faith and to your family as the things that help carry you through the low points in your life. But I'm always amazed at this man is more fit now than he was when I met him. he is always on the go. He's always exercising. He's always taking good care of himself. He's a great inspiration. He just staying focused, and I really admire you for that, Jason.
Thank you.
So yeah, talking about all these things, I just wanted to go back a little bit to when we were in, and you said your drinking, your challenges and struggles with drinking started even before your military career began. But I'm very proud of my military service, just as you are. But one of the things culturally that has always bothered me is how alcohol is just, it's almost like another aspect of the military life, just binge drinking, just heavy drinking, and it just seems like every event has alcohol. I'm not condemning people who do drink responsibly, but what I'm saying is that I spent a year in Korea when I was in South Korea. That's before I went to Germany. And even before I arrived there, when I was calling to talk to the person who was sponsoring me into the base, getting my post office box and everything, the first question to me over the phone was, "How's your liver?" And I said, I'm fine. And I didn't quite get what he said. He goes, "It won't be by the time you leave here. It's not going to be by the time you leave here." And there would be ceremonies called the green bean and the brown bean, which is where you're brand new, you get the green bean, and then at the end brown, because you're just so worn out and broken. And it didn't happen to me. I didn't do those sorts of things for many reasons. Being away from my family, I was just sad that I was away, and I didn't really feel like going out and celebrating anything. Being a newlywed, but there were guys that one night I was walking back to my room, and it had snowed. And there was somebody that I knew, somebody I worked with, that was face down in a snowdrift because he was so intoxicated, and he had no idea where he was. He could barely speak. And I got him to his room, and I sat there with him, and he was just beyond obliterated. And this was over 20 years ago. And I've kept in touch with him loosely over the years, and he's still around. He's not what he once was. And my point is, and I'm not trying to sound preachy here, but my point is that a lot of people take it too far. And
you're definitely correct on that point.
And back when we were serving, we were junior NCOs. There was a stigma attached to someone going out to seek mental health advice, mental health, services, or addiction treatment services, or anything like. There was a stigma because it was affecting the manpower, and it shows weakness and all this other stuff. But those things are there because they have to be, but also because of what some of us
what it does to us. Sometimes our service, the extracurriculars that go with our service, just put us through the ringer, just like any battlefield would. And so it's just something that has always bothered me, that it's that way, just kind of frustrating. Any thoughts?
I'll definitely agree with you on all your assessments. Yes, I had those encounters myself where I actually got obliterated beyond recognition and had to have help in that regard. You're right about the stigma, and unfortunately that's been, just point blank, it's always been a problem.
Yeah.
And because of the machoism and you're not cool or anything like that, especially when it came to the security police, security forces career field.
Yeah.
Because you know, about security police before we merged the security forces back in '97.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that standing is out there.
Yeah.
And you're right. Germany is known for their alcohol.
Yeah.
And so is South Korea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to go to South Korea. I volunteered for South Korea 3 times and never got it. How's that that stunk? I wanted to go there. Can you believe it?
Wow. I didn't even volunteer for it and I got it.
I know. That's what was the frustration of it all. Our main point, though, is in Germany, as you recall, with the Bitburger beer and all the availability of alcohol, especially the locations off base and what have you, it was easy to get it.
Yeah.
You could basically you just go off base and get it. That's how simple it was. And most places are like that, stateside or overseas. We know that. However, Germany is known for their good times. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And I think that's where it began for me. I really think my true drinking problem began right after I got back from Afghanistan in December of 2007. Excuse me, November of 2007. Because when we were in Afghanistan, I was doing protection and security detail for the generals and all the other very important people or special high-ranking officers. And there was a situation where there was an Army escort, Army convoy that went down this particular road, and an IED got their convoy. They got their vehicles. And unfortunately, the Army individuals, I think he was he was Special Forces. That's right. And he passed away, found out his wife was pregnant during his unfortunate departure. And the thing that really bothered me about that the most was we went down that same exact route 4 hours prior to that situation. I think that stuck with me. So when I got home, wine, I just discovered wine, and it really gave me a boost that I hadn't experienced before. And from that point forward, I did that. Fast forward to October 2008 in Lodges, that's when I discovered vodka, and that was really the beginning of the end for me right there.
Yeah.
Seeing water with vodka to try to lose weight, it came in handy. It didn't taste the best, but it helped me with trying to lose weight, stay in shape, and what have you. So, but those particular times is that's where I can really, after all the soul searching and the people who are helping me in sobriety, that's where I really discovered those 2 particular times where it really started becoming a slow but sure problem for me, in conjunction with everything that else was taking place at that time in terms of stress and making sure we do well and we exceed the standards, not meet the standards, exceed the standards. You know that routine as well too, because you're a person who has exceeded his standards, and that's fantastic. And that we want to continue to do, but sometimes we do a little bit more than we should. We put more on ourselves than we should, and then that can inadvertently create other problems for us or situations that will sneak their way in to have fun with us. So we have to try to take care of it at the same time.
So, my son is now serving in the Air Force, as you know, and he's stationed in Guam. He arrived there just a few months ago, and to me it's just weird being the parent that has the child in the military, because just a few months ago he was still in high school. This year he was still in high school, and now he's over there. But not just him, but anyone serving, what advice, considering, the breadth of your career and what you've seen and experienced and what you've gone through, your hell, your demons and all that other stuff, what advice would you give to those currently serving, especially the young who just joined? What advice would you give them in terms of just from your experience? What would you say?
One, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the problem with a lot of people. They're afraid to ask for help because, for whatever reason, that word you mentioned, stigma. Number two, pace yourself. You got a long career ahead of you. You got many things you want to do. Sort out your goals, sort out your objectives of what you want to do as a person and as well as for your career. So put a list together, but pace yourself. You persevere. I love that word, persevere. And by pacing yourself, you will prevail as an individual. Also, when it comes to being, know your, I guess the best way to put it is know your place. Don't let people run you over. At the same time, simultaneously, don't try to help other people as well, because you do that, then that could be a start of the downfall of whatever you're trying to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Furthermore, finally, most importantly, you gotta have fun. You have to have fun and what you do. If that fun, then you need to find a place where you're going to be happy. Yeah. You got to take care of yourself, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, mentally, across the board. But you got to have fun, because if you don't have that time for yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of the other aspects of your life. Yeah. And I've always learned too, you have to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. Because you're just basically dead weight to them, so to speak. If you're not taking care of yourself, then you're gonna probably decline somewhere when you need to be counting on. So just know when to say when, and just take care of yourselves right there. Another point I'd like to add too, Ken, with regards to recovery, addiction, alcoholism, what have you. One thing I need to make sure that people, if they're in the process of recovering, such as myself, make sure you have humor in your life. When I was going through my rehab and I was trying to take care of business, I used humor as a tool to help me get through those challenging times. And the thing that really irritated me and frustrated me the most was that you using your humor to hide your true feelings. Well, no, I wasn't. That is straightforward garbage. And if anybody says that, yeah, I mean, it can be possibly true. Don't get me wrong here. If anybody says that, then they're not actually looking at the complete overall specifics of that situation. And humor is a good thing. You need humor because it helps you relieve that stress. It helps you get focused. Granted, I tell bad jokes. You know that. We counter each other well in that area.
Yeah.
But we need to have humor, because my grandmother said it best. Laughter is like a tranquilizer without the side effects. And boy, right in that point. And
I remember the first night of basic training when they gave us that book. Remember the book they gave us in basic?
Oh, yes.
In the zippered black leather pouch, and they said every moment you have, you need to be reading this airman training order. And so on the very first page, it said, it talks about, being in the military and that life, and you've chosen this life. It's a great legacy that you're undertaking. But one of the things that it said was, don't lose your sense of humor.
Exactly.
And it said, don't lose your sense of humor. And when I was reading beneath it, it said, you're going to be going through a series of life changes while you're here. You're going to be learning, enlisted force structure and military history and enlisted history and all these other things. You're going to be marching and drilling and testing yourself physically, but maintain the perspective and keep a good sense of humor about you. And it doesn't just mean walk around cracking jokes. It also means recognize that, why am I here? What am I here for? This is all good. Don't take it personal and just move on. And sometimes people are just so stiff and so rigid. They don't think about that. And I've always used humor to cope with the rigors of life, just like anybody does. But it's good advice that you're giving here. When you're young and when you're serving, you think it's never going to end. So this is why a lot of people,
isn't that the truth?
yeah, you think it's never going to end because you're young and you feel like you're King Kong on cocaine or something, because you're just, you know what I mean? You're just, you feel
Oh, yes.
invulnerable, but you have to remember that it's going to end. And my military career ended 3 years earlier than I had originally anticipated, because of an illness, and I couldn't stay in. I suffer, as you know, Jason, I suffer from ulcerative colitis, which is a gastrointestinal thing, and it just doesn't seem to work in military life. But I was not prepared for. Well, there's no 100% preparation. We were just talking about that at the top of our interview, but I wasn't ready. I was not ready for it to end yet. I wanted to become a first sergeant. I wanted to continue to serve. And you have to remember that you said have goals, have, create some objectives and what you want to accomplish while you're serving, education, investments, and all that other stuff is important too. But anyway, we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to say, I wanted to ask you, if someone is out like us, they've served, they're done, they've put their military career behind them, and they're struggling right now, what can they do? Where can they go for help? And for mental health issues or substance abuse, what can they do, Jason?
The best advice they can give is check out all the organizations that they might have on an installation that could be nearby, like any type of installation. It doesn't matter the branch of service. Mm-hmm. Go online. They've got help all over the city, especially for veterans that need it, especially with that transition, what have you. Or anybody who's in the first responders type business, policemen, medical, firefighting, anything along those lines. Heck, even telephone repairmen. Especially when they're trying to take over utilities when we're dealing with these elements. They're heroes too. So anybody who's got one of those dangerous type of professions, they've got available sources where they need to be. Heck, even maybe check where you work. They might have something there. A lot of companies have available a type of
like employee assistance programs and things like that.
Thank you. Yeah. Exactly. So even check with your local company. But there's compared to what it was back in the day with us, there's so much more help available out there for people that need it.
And I'm glad that the stigma is starting to dematerialize. And I remember I was telling Eric in my previous interview, I asked him, I said, do you know how many times I went to sick call in my entire military career? 0. And the reason why is because I never went to sick call, because there was that there were times where I should have, but the stigma was the manpower. We have to be able to have the manpower to post out. We need to have we don't want to, we're going to be hurting our fellow airmen if we go to sick call. And it was like an unspoken, the stigma was created and sustained everywhere I went. And those people who went to sick call were held in very low regard, or they're some people would call them the lame, lazies, and crazies, or the people who can't hang, they can't hack it, whatever. So they have to go to sick call because life is too hard for them. And that's the sort of thing that we have to fight against, because I'm telling you, afterwards, when it's all over, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you take care of number one. And if you're not fit to fight, if you're not fit for duty, you need help. You need to reach out. You need to seek out those resources. So, anyway, what are you doing now? What's Jason Smith's big thing?
Right now, I'm the security account manager for Allied Universal Security / Booz Allen Hamilton, and I have 2 teams, one down here in Colorado Springs and one up in Aurora. To include myself, we have a team of 15, and it's like you said, because everything that's going on with all these situations with COVID and what have you. What you just mentioned right there is exactly what I'm practicing right now as a leaders, manager, supervisor. And fortunately, I've got a fantastic team. The dedication and loyalty of these security professionals are fantastic, and I am so blessed to have them on my team, especially my site supervisor up in Aurora. He makes life a lot easier for me being down here when he's up there.
Yeah.
So I just make sure that what I practice in the military I use now, but of course, got to be careful in the approach because of the differences between civilian and military. And
Yeah.
so the thing I can just say big time for anybody out there, I think the word that could best describe what everybody needs to practice is perseverance.
Yeah. Perseverance. Yeah. Perseverance, self-care, resilience, and all that. So, your family, how old are your kids again?
18 and 16.
Wow. So they're at that stage now where you can finally put on the crown and say, I'm accomplished. My kids have made it. They've survived my parenting.
No, until they're both out of college or whatever they decide to do, and they're completely on their own, then I will share that sentiment.
Well, Jason, this has been great. I really appreciate you sharing some aspects of your life. And for everyone out there watching, if you're having struggles, if you're, it's I used to always say to my airmen, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's sometimes you feel like you're staring up the side of a mountain. How am I going to climb this? And the only way to do it is take it step by step. And if you're having struggles with addiction or mental illness, or if you're having difficulties with finding employment, there are resources out there through the VA or AMVETS or a lot of those not-for-profit veterans organizations that can help you. And you just the most important thing is you raised your hand to serve. You got to raise your hand and say, I need help. Jason is living proof of this as someone who said, I need help. And some people have the stigma of, well, if you ask for help, well, you're not strong. It just means you're so strong that you've been strong for so long, and now you need help. And so and he's living proof that being on the other side of addiction and being in recovery, it is a testament to the strength that he has cultivated over the decades of military service. And those are the sorts of things that we all have within us that we just have to recognize, and we have to prioritize for our own recovery and for our own battlefield. So Jason Smith, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
Can I say one more thing in conclusion?
Of course.
I just want to put it out there to everybody in the audience, regardless of what you do, always remember to try to take everything one day at a time, and always remember 24 hours is a new record. One team, one fight, one victory. God bless America.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time on The Last Battlefield.